Got heated during his weekly radio appearance on 105.3 The Fan after being asked if his team's lack of aggressiveness in the offseason played a part in their 3-3 start. The Cowboys owner even appeared, I'm not even sure it's appeared, clearly threatened the jobs of the hosts of the show. Here was the moment.
Now, if you think I'm interested on a damn phone call with you over a radio, and sitting here and throwing all the good out with the dishwater, you have got to be smoking something over there this morning. This is not your job. Your job isn't to let me go over all the reasons that I did something and I'm sorry that I did it. That's not your job. So I'll get somebody else to ask these questions, man.
Jerry, we're trying to figure out why the team is.
I'm not kidding you. I'm not kidding you. You're not going to figure out what the team is doing right or wrong. If you are, or any 5 or 10 like you, you need to come to this meeting I'm going to today. There are 32 teams here. You're geniuses. Don't really think you're going to sit here with a microphone and tell me all of the things that I've done wrong and without going over the rights. You want some conversation this morning? You're getting it.
So the hosts of the show are, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Shan Shariff, RJ Choppy, and Bobby Belt. We got that right at the end of our show yesterday, and so we commented on it briefly. The more times I listen to it, the more uncomfortable it becomes.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously frustrated, and to lash out at them for asking very obvious questions is just ugly, frankly. So the issues that they're having, and when you do something like that, it seems to me to suggest that you regret some of the things that you didn't do, and rather than talking about the mistakes you made, you lash out at people and suggest that they should look up the rights that you did, which doesn't really make sense. Like, we are where we are right now. No one is living off of what they have done in the past. Right now, the team is not properly constructed, which falls in his lap.
Yeah, Jerry acted like a horse's ass for no reason, right? Like, you're out there, listen, you did, they don't got to be geniuses. Captain Obvious saw this thing coming, bro. Like, it wasn't like, it wasn't hiding in the weeds, Jerry. We all said, when Detroit runs into your house, they're going to break it off in you because you ain't good enough. And that's on you. You didn't get you didn't go get a running back. You didn't address on the defense. You're sitting there looking at it, and that you were shocked is the most insulting thing. So to go after a man's job after that, ridiculous, bro. I got nothing else on that. It's aggravating when people act that way, because he's not just the owner, he's the general manager. If you're the general manager and everything runs through Jerry, then act like it, right? Act like it in that moment. I didn't do enough. We're going to fix it. We're going to find a way. Really simple answers. There was no surprise you were going on that show and going to be questioned.
So let's be clear about the dynamics that are at play here, because this is the one part of this that I have lived. I worked in local radio before I came to ESPN. It was a very long time ago, but I was there. And I was there when we had the Mike Ditka show on he was the coach of the Bears. I was working in Chicago. We had the coaches show. That dynamic is an odd one.
Sure.
Because he's being paid to come on, and there's something in that dynamic. But you know what he isn't? He isn't the owner of the team. Yeah. There's no other owner of the team that has his own radio show like that. So Mike Ditka, what he couldn't do, he could threaten to not come on anymore, but he couldn't threaten to fire you for asking the questions. And that's the part of this that makes it so uncomfortable.
Amen.
Because the power dynamic is, it's I'm trying to use unprecedented. There is no other circumstance like this. Robert Kraft, Woody Johnson, an owner, doesn't have his own weekly show on the radio because he's not also the general manager. And so that dynamic doesn't exist anywhere else. And frankly, and I say this respectfully, and I'm sorry, Hawk, but I have a lot of respect for Jerry Jones. I've said that a million times. That was beneath him.
Absolutely.
Like Mr. Jones, if you're watching this, that was beneath you. Like that was a moment in which you appeared very small, and I don't think you're a small person. And I hope that in a moment of reflection, he is able to recognize that, and whatever rectifying it there is, he's able to do, because that was a moment that was beneath a person of his stature, in my opinion. Go ahead, Hawk.
I mean, the irony is, of that exchange between those people, only one of those people have done their job well, and that is Jerry Jones. From a GM perspective, as an owner, to your point, he's great, but as a GM, he has not been good of recent. And any other GM would have been fired. And the reason why this conversation goes the way it does is because The moves that should have been made as a GM of the Dallas Cowboys should have been sponsored by Geico because they're so easy a caveman could have done them.
Yeah.
Right? You choose Ezekiel Elliott over Derrick Henry, the best running back of our generation, who looks to be exactly that this season and has the Baltimore Ravens on a whole other stratosphere. You don't address the defensive line, so now every team that comes to town runs the ball down your throat. And it doesn't matter what you do anywhere else, if you can't stop the run, you will lose football games. Let's go even more recent. Because Amari Cooper just got traded to the Buffalo Bills. For what? A third-round pick.
Yeah.
The Dallas Cowboys traded him away 3 years ago for a fifth-round pick after acquiring him for a first-round pick. Think about that. He is 3 years older. He is on a team that is not winning, and they still got more compensation in the middle of a season than the Dallas Cowboys did 3 years ago when he was at his height in an offseason where every other receiver who got traded, number one, they got first-round picks.
That's right.
That is bad general managing. Period, right? And so to feel like you are above being called out about that or even asked questions is the issue with the Dallas Cowboys as an organization.
Here's the
right
thing.
now.
On some level, he is above that. He puts himself in that position. No other owner is asked those questions. The reason Woody Johnson was answering questions yesterday was because it happened to be the owners' meetings.
Right.
So he's walking in the door, and all the reporters are there in the lobby of the hotel. But every week, Woody Johnson, I'm just using him as an example because he's the guy who's been in the middle of all of the news lately. He doesn't have to sit there and answer questions every single week because the owner shouldn't do that.
Right.
That's just that's not part of the deal here. So this is where being the owner and being the general manager puts his head in the mouth of the lion in a way that the owner really is not meant to be.
Yeah, I think you after the firing of Robert Saleh, you did a nice little down barrel about what was going on in the history of the Jets. You could do the same thing about the Cowboys. And I think over a certain period of time, it's hard to point the finger anywhere else than the one person who is in charge of all of it. Like, there are organizations that have consistent success, and the Cowboys have fallen into that. I think he's confronting that. That's why it's the lash out. When you are embarrassed and ashamed, you start swinging wildly at whoever's in front of you. So I don't hold anything against the hosts, obviously, for doing their job. Yeah. But Jerry, I think he's embarrassed.
And think about this. Because we've negotiated and we had a lot of respect for Jerry Jones and the way he and Nick and I have dealt with him a number of times.
Let me make sure everyone knows what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes we assume people know things. Domonique and Jeff were the leaders of the NFL Players Association during the collective bargaining sessions, during the lockout, and Jerry Jones was, of course, a prominent member of the owners among. So you have sat in small rooms and dealt with him one-on-one multiple times.
Many times. And he was, and he is about business, and he wants to win. If there's anything you know about Jerry, it'd take you 3 seconds to realize this guy desperately wants to win another championship. He is all about it. He wants to make that happen. The problem is he doesn't know the best way to get there. And so now you're seeing years of frustration build. We went from those years of the 8-8s forever, and he's just like mid-road. Then they get good, but they can't get over the top. And now he's seeing the decline, and he's getting older. And you want to go win one, and you're feeling the time clock, and you feel that pressure. And when you see it fall off a cliff the way it has this season, it's one thing to be in games, it's another to be not competitive. And they haven't been competitive in a number of games. That leads to your roster isn't enough. You can blame coaches when you're losing by 3, when you're getting blown out and the doors are getting blown off and fans are leaving and other fans are coming in to celebrate the opposing team. You've fallen off the cliff, and I think that's what he's expressing in the frustration.
If the aliens came tomorrow and they said, well, how do you play football and how don't you play football? I would put on the Dallas Cowboys versus the Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
And I would say, watch the Detroit Lions for how you're supposed to do it as a team. That's how your team is supposed to play. And then flip the other side and watch the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
Because that was embarrassing, even by NFL standards. And you're talking to someone that was on his fair share of embarrassing losses. And even still watching that game, I'm like, ooh, the Detroit Lions right now, they seem like they're bullying a little bit. Look at this play. There was a back-to-back play here where Jamison Williams runs a seam release post route and completely drops the football. The Detroit Lions line back up the very next play and run the same route to the same person and say, hey, let's just try it again.
Yes.
You know how rare that happens in the NFL? That someone says, you know what, that was on us.
Yeah.
No big deal. They're not going to adjust to it. They're not going to stop it. Let's just do the same thing over again, and they completed for 20 yards.
This is like period four of offensive work. Hey, run it back.
Just
Yeah,
run
we
it
see that up. Do it again. We can see that again. Get us a good new look.
To be clear, those are literally consecutive plays in this game. It's the same play. The other thing, Cindy, can we roll all the trick plays?
Yeah.
Because that, even I know, again, you guys played it, you understand stuff that I don't understand, but I know that when you run a trick play, that's one thing. When you are throwing the ball to linemen they had like 6 attempts to linemen. This is the best one ever. They ran a hook and ladder to a tackle for crying out loud.
Touchdown.
And it worked. They called it back on a bad penalty. They're just literally rubbing their noses in it.
They had no respect for this team. They had no respect for this team because for you to run this many trick plays, and we've talked about this before, coaches love practice and they do not want to waste 1 minute of practice.
Not one.
They knew that they was going to beat your ass so handedly that they spent multiple periods. No, listen to me. Listen to me.
Preach for me, Nick.
Listen
Please
to me.
preach it.
They lined up a tackle as a wide damn receiver and practiced that foolishness.
And he ran a route.
They ran a hook and ladder. They running seam routes to tight ends. They were in practice on Thursday.
Yes.
Like, you want to do another period of 9 on 7? Nah, let's do our trick period. Because we're going to have so many opportunities of trick plays we will have this week. We're going to be up by 30 in the third quarter. I would be so infuriated if I was going to the middle of the field and shake hands like, you must think I ain't nothing.
And we're laughing, but everything you're saying is so spot on. Because to execute one trick play to an offensive lineman takes weeks of preparation.
Yeah.
To do that many in one and empty the clip, not say we're going to save some trick plays for later. We're going to do every one of these and devote this much practice and weeks for just this game.
Yeah. Well, those can't be run again.